What is the biggest cultural misstep you've seen a tourist take? I wish this story wasn't about me. I was traveling through Spain a few years ago and spent some time up in Basque country. I enjoyed the local culture and decided it would be one of my few buy a souvenir times. So at this little weird roadside stand that was clearly not catering to tourists, I was at the age where not looking like a tourist was super important to me. I bought a cool looking shirt with a large, stylized oak tree on it. I caught a train that took me into the interior of Spain, and like a true asshole tourist I thought I would show everyone in how attuned to their culture I was by wearing the t-shirt. Everyone treated me like crap. People on the train gave me dirty looks. A guy told me to get out of his cafe. A policeman refused to give me directions. Finally some kind soul who would tell I was an idiot walked up to me and in halting English explained that the shirt I was wearing was a shirt that claimed support for the ETA, which was a violent Basque separatist group. So I basically was supporting terrorism. I quickly found a bathroom and changed. TL. Doctor, I supported terrorism because I have an amazing fashion sense. Currently work at a hotel in Banff, Alberta. There was an incident a couple of months ago where a Asian man misunderstood the concept of bear spray. He thought that bear spray was a form of bear repellent. He bear maced his children point blank in the hotel lobby. For anyone curious, bear mace is on average about 10x as powerful as standard pepper spray. Oh holy crap, were they okay? Won't that give you a chemical burn? It probably could at that close, and when you're that young, I bet they had to fumigate the lobby. It's some crap. American couple getting their photos taken with their thumbs up in front of the gates at Auschwitz. People from IDK what country getting their photos taken with their thumbs up at Arlington National Cemetery. My 8th grade class was part of a wreath laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. There's a very specific procedure for how you hand off the wreath to the honor guards. You can only walk so far, and then civilians cannot cross a certain point, hence the handoff. Our teachers explained it to us 4 times. The tour guide explained it 4 times. The goddamned honor guard explained it 4 times, while looking very serious. It's a huge honor, and since we were laying the wreath on Memorial Day, it was an even bigger deal. So the time comes, and there's a huge audience and many were veterans or active duty service members. Our delegates begin their walk. Everything is silent, reverent and done with great care and dignity, until some woman let her small child go. The kid ran around laughing and shrieking, and you can see all these service members bristle. And then it happened. The kid ran past the line of no return. Oh god, you could hear the vets and service members gasp. And the 2 servicemen in full dress blues who were guarding the tomb immediately reacted. The kid's mother is laughing, and then they began shouting to get back. The kid stops and starts crying. Its mom, who was laughing, now yelled at these soldiers who were guarding the remains of unknown soldiers from every major war to stop yelling at him. He's just a little boy. Military police appeared out of nowhere, and they were removed from Arlington. My mom used to be a tour guide in Greece, and one day she took a group of French tourists to Delphi. Apparently, one Frenchman decided that a little piece of a temple would make a nice souvenir, which he proceeded to hack off with a little chisel he had brought. My mom didn't realize this had happened until another Frenchman on the tour went to the Greek police and had the other one arrested, declaring him something along the lines of a disgrace to France. Good for the guy who reported him. I saw someone order a Pepsi at a restaurant in Atlanta. Based on the reaction, you'd think he just sacrificed a live puppy right there on the table. This might be a stupid question, but why is this considered bad? For reference, I'm a nation Canadian with barely any life experience. Coca-Cola's headquarters are in Atlanta. It's a big deal there. That one Chinese guy who wrote all over ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. I was so glad when I found out that wasn't an American kid. I know when I saw that, I went hurrah, it's someone else crapping on another's culture for once. Angry American women yelling, yes, yelling at a French vendor for not accepting US dollars. I was embarrassed. On the reverse, when I was in Lyon, I saw a cashier at a Tablet not accept a 100 franc note. Yes, this was a while ago, because the woman, from Dallas, was only buying gum. Her kid's ears hadn't equalized, and the kid was in a lot of pain. The cashier was a total douche about it. I bought them the gum and went on my way. Lots of times there's a policy about taking large notes at small stores like that. It might not have been the cashier's fault. Apparently not tipping in America gets you some very dirty looks. Not that I would know from personal experience or anything. No siree. In the restaurant business, tipping is the usual form of salary for the front of the house staff, servers, bussers, etc. While the minimum wage for most businesses is $7.25, that wage is reduced to $2.13 for tipped employees. It's an easier way to get money while not having to worry about Uncle Sam pounding the paycheck. I live in a tourist town year around, and in the summertime tourists who aren't used to the American tipping system often upset the servers by not tipping the appropriate amount, usually 15-20%. It's no one's fault really, as tourists might not be used to the system, but the servers will complain for a good hour about not getting tipped right. I'm from New Jersey. I can feel sorry for the servers, but not because people don't tip, rather because their employers screw them over. In many European countries the cost that is printed is the cost of the thing and that is it. That includes wages for employees, taxes, whatever you will be asked to fork over. To people who are used to this, anything else will seem like a scam. In Denmark for example, you might tip if you thought the service was beyond expectations, or if you put the server at particular trouble, or you might not even then, and no one is going to give stares. If servers here started behaving worse to people who did not tip, they would get the boot and or people would find another place to eat. I can see how the culture could be different to the point of a 20% tip being the standard situation, but servers have to be aware that many tourists won't magically know this without being told, preferably up front. Female Europeans going swimming in the hotel pool topless. I ain't complaining. The hotel I worked at had a European style pool and a family pool. The former allowed topless bathing and sunbathing. Never failed that when a pretty young woman took off her top, some ugly old American woman would come and insist I tell her to put a top on. Sorry lady, this ain't Ohio, and I'm not saying crap. As someone from Ohio, I can confirm old fat ladies do not approve of public nudity. It's my chief concern come November. I was on a flight to Frankfurt, Germany last year, and there was a group of college girls who were starting a backpacking trip on the same flight. One girl, maybe 19 years old, dressed in bright pink sweatpants and hoodie with some sorority symbol on it. She is seated next to a German man in his mid-40s and starts chatting with him. Literally before the flight even takes off, the girl is saying, "Oh, we don't blame all of you for Hitler, but were you or your parents like that back then?" And a number of other Nazi themed conversation points. Everyone around was super uncomfortable. It was delightful. Don't mention the war. We were invited. Punch was served. Check with Poland. Went on a tour of the Normandy landings and visited the main German cemetery. It was very somber. The mean age of the dead there is 19 years old, even with the aged veterans on leave from the Eastern Front who defended the coast. A loud Midwestern family started loudly exclaiming how outraged they are at being brought to a Nazi shrine. Everyone was mortified. As a German, it's sometimes upsetting, maybe more so frustrating, that beyond the horrible horrors of the Holocaust and the purely awful things that were done, so many people outside Germany don't understand and don't show the respect to the millions of Germans who were drafted and forced to die on the fronts. Not every 19-year-old couldn't wait to die for Hitler in the Soviet winter or shoot out with the Americans in France. And the taboo of trying to salvage any kind of humanity on the German side is again frustrating at times. All of this again overshadowed by the awful things that were done. People have to remember that the first country the Nazis conquered was Germany. For the life of me, I can't remember the source for this quote, but I do like it a lot. You know, in movies, when the character doesn't understand Spanish and decides to talk really slowly and know to the end of everything. I've seen that happen to real life. I once saw a guy ordering a drink at one of those pool bars like that. I went up to the bartender and said, "This guy is very stupid. He wants a drink. Drinko. I'm pretty sure it's drink A." A while back at Marrakech train station, a friend of mine accidentally mistook the place where Muslims perform wudu, a cleaning ritual of the hands and feet before prayer, as a urinal. The worst thing was he realized when someone started shouting at him, with his thing still his hand struggling to get it to stop flowing. I've never seen anyone so horrified about the mistake that they had just made. Oh no, that is really very bad. Self story. It was my first time in Thailand and had been there for about a week. I was looking to buy some bananas, so I walked down the street from the guest house. For those that aren't familiar with Thailand, there are street vendors everywhere, especially along main streets. Well, I walk up to the first one that has bananas, a small coffee and drink cart, and ask them how much for the bananas. I get a weird look and assume they don't understand me. So I point and ask how much, which hasn't failed me yet. Now I'm being told no and getting weirder looks. So I start to walk away and the lady behind the cart starts pointing down the street and says something like 3. At this point I'm wholly confused and I just decide to keep looking. 3 blocks later, I find a fruit shop with bananas. Later that day, I realized that those bananas were in fact not for sale. They were the daily offering at the stall's small little shrine. Every building or residence has a small little shrine where the owners place small offerings of food or drink. As it turned out, this lady's shrine just happened to be front and center on the cart and had only bananas. This is innocent though. It's not like you would have knew it was a shrine. Funny story, though. Close bracket. I was eating in a sushi place in Tokyo one day when a group of North American tourists came in. One was obviously the leader and wanted to show that he knew how things were done, so grabbed one of the soy sauce dishes and filled it to the brim from the bottle on the counter. This is already a big no-no and earned some odd looks from the other patrons, but then announcing in a loud voice that he wanted to get some wasabi in this crap, he took hold of the bottle of green powder next to the soy sauce and dumped a huge spoonful in the same dish. It was green tea. I was in Tokyo and stopped into a crowded sushi place. I found a spot at the counter and ordered what turned out to be the 4 kinds of tuna sushi platter, which was amazing. As I was starting to eat, I went to put some wasabi into my soy sauce and the guy next to me grunted to get my attention. I turned to him and he pointed to my soy sauce and then to the wasabi, shook his head no, and then discreetly pointed to the chef and successfully mimed he wouldn't like that. He then proceeded to demonstrate how to put wasabi directly onto the sushi and quietly nodded in approval when I did it correctly. He then ordered a sake and 2 glasses, poured them and offered me one. We shared the sake as we ate in silence, with him occasionally grunting at me to show me the correct way to do something. I tried to pay for his meal, but he made it clear that that wasn't okay either. Great guy who decided to show the dumb tourist how to properly enjoy a local meal. It was a really cool experience and I always love meeting people like that. When I was in London, I witnessed 2 older Americans with very strong New York accents trying to order pizza in a restaurant. The waitress approached and asked them if they were ready to order. The American lady then proceeded to say loudly and ever so slowly, I cannot stress enough how loud and slow. Do you speak English? Do you speak English? We are American, we need someone who speaks English. To the English lady, who had asked her in English in England if she was ready to order. I was petrified. When the waitress made it back to my table, I apologized profusely for my fellow countrymen. The waitress's response, don't worry love, we have old people here too. That last line put a smile on my face. A British family once told me that they wanted to look at New York, Disney World, and California. Then they asked me if they could do that in 1 week. I really did not think they knew how big America is. Well, you can in a week. It would just be expensive and brief and terrible. You can't appreciate anything that fast. In the late 1990s, a German friend was traveling in the States and remarked at how sexually open our culture was, much more liberal than his expectations. When I pressed him as to why he felt that way, it turned out he mistook all the nicely dressed office ladies hanging around downtown as prostitutes. They were all just taking their cigarette breaks. Apparently German streetwalkers dress for success. Dress for the job you want, not the job you have. I work in a popular amusement park where one of my fellow co-workers' job was to get one of our characters in on time. She closed the character's line prior and was spieling to everyone who missed that the character would be back in just a few minutes if they'd wait. There was one foreign guest who completely ignored her, as if she wasn't even there though. As he creeped toward the character and his last family, my co-worker stepped in front of the man and said, "I'm sorry sir, but this character is with his last family and needs to go back inside. He'll be back." And that's when the guest put his hand in her face and simply said, "I don't listen to women." The character was done at this point, so my co-worker did her job and made sure he got back inside immediately. The foreign man didn't end up meeting the character anyway. He wasn't patient enough to wait 5 minutes. Not me, but a friend who had just immigrated to America from Germany at the time. He got pulled over by a cop for speeding. Now, in America, someone who gets pulled over stays in their vehicle and lets the cop approach their car. In Germany it's a bit different. So this guy gets out of his car and approaches the cop car as he always has in Germany, and the cop flips out. This cop jumps out of his car, weapon drawn, shouting, "Get on the ground. Get on the ground." Of course my friend immediately falls to the ground with his arms out. He says the cop was sweating, and his gun was trembling and everything. Within a few minutes the two had worked it out and all was understood, but according to him the cop looked extremely shaken by the whole thing. So, how would this work in reverse in America and in Germany? Would the officer and the person just each sit there in their cars, waiting for the other one, until it gets too awkward and the cop drives off? I live in Western Canada and we have a lot of people that come from all over the world, who rent motorhomes and tour the country. I heard a story recently about a friend traveling down a back road when they came across one of the rented RVs stopped on the side of the road with some Asian tourists in it. They were standing outside, so these people stopped to help. They had a can of bear spray they were studying, and it was clear they were trying to figure out how to get it to work. Assuming they were just trying to inform themselves, the friend gave them a quick run through on how to operate it and left. About 15 minutes later they drove by the same spot and saw the red-faced tourists coughing and screaming on the side of the road. Apparently the bear spray is used to keep bears away, similar to mosquito repellent, and they thought they had to spray it on themselves to keep bears away, and did so inside the rented motorhome. For those that don't know, bear spray is like pepper spray or mace on freaking steroids.